It's the continued adventures of Sonic Yoda in Pinball Land, and in this episode we take a look at probably the most well-known pinball game on the Mega Drive, Sonic the Hedgehog Spinball. Now let's get this straight, Sonic Spinball is the most well-known Mega Drive pinball game simply because that blue bar is plastered all over it. It is by no means the very best playing pinball game on the Mega Drive. You only need to look back at our Devil Crash MD episode to see how good pinball on the Mega Drive can be. With Sonic Spinball we get a pinball game with 4 tables that have very specific goals that lead to a boss fight with one of Dr. Robotnik's creations and then eventually the man himself. Sonic Spinball is more of a hybrid of a Sonic style platformer with a pinball game. While you'll predominantly be slapping the blue blur around the table using flippers and bumpers, you retain some influence over Sonic that's interesting in concept but sloppy in execution. Whilst in a ball and using the flippers, you have very little influence over Sonic outside vaguely leaning him into the direction you want to go, but even then it's so limited that it's strange that the developer even bothered. When you really get to control Sonic in a more traditional manner is when he lands on a completely flat horizontal surface. Then you can run and jump and use the Super Spin Dash. However, even these controls don't feel like what you'd expect from a traditional Sonic game. Sonic feels slow and unresponsive, like you're trying to force him to navigate a sea of treacle. This is mainly because the 2 developers who led the project at Sega Technical Institute hadn't previously worked on a traditional Sonic game. However, it's not all doom and gloom, because Sonic Spinball is at its best when it's being a pinball game. Each of the 4 tables tasks you with finding a set number of Chaos Emeralds before you can open up the entrance to the boss area. Emeralds are craftily hidden around the table and you have to access certain areas or hit certain switches in order to nab them. In the case of the first table, 1 emerald can be collected by dropping down into a barrel and rowing across a sea of toxic sludge, whilst the other 2 need to be accessed via a minecart that can only roll to its destination once you raise a bridge with a lever. It's clever stuff that forces the player to explore the tables and see what secrets they hold. The tables themselves are littered with Sonic paraphernalia like rings, badniks and the aforementioned Chaos Emeralds. The end of level bosses themselves are always really satisfying to battle as they often task you with finding the best way to repeatedly bounce Sonic into his foe, and it always feels really good when you combo a load of hits together thanks to a really well placed shot. Upon completion of a table you even get little bonus tables which can be played for extra bonus points. These are played on smaller tables with a lack of gimmicks and usually one main goal. For example, the first table sees you playing as Sonic in a first-person perspective, trying to bust open a row of canisters housing your animal friends. Dr. Robotnik paces back and forth in front of them to block your attacks. It sounds a lot easier than it is, and the squat little tables often result in you guttering your ball more frequently than you'd like. Overall, Sonic the Hedgehog Spinball is a game with interesting ideas and poor execution. The tables themselves are the real star of the show, and when you're pinging Sonic off flippers and bumpers you can sometimes forgive the shoddy physics. But once you enter an area when you're required to do some more traditional platforming, the cracks start to show and it often leads to a frustrating experience that won't make you want to push on to the final table. It's a missed opportunity for a game that very nearly succeeds in melding pinball with a traditional platformer, but sadly it just feels too wonky to glean any meaningful enjoyment from.